guys, this is Attorney Walter Knott. I wanted to go ahead and take a moment to basically go through the SSI increase to the 1073 from the 794, and I wanted to go through and explain why the math is really, really simple when it comes to this, and then talk a little bit about the politics behind it. So let's just take the basic simple things. We know that there's around 8 million individuals who are currently receiving SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and we know that SSI has a shot as opposed to SSDI or retirement and getting a boost. We know this because of what's going on with the politics right now, with the Democrats being in control, and they want to get more boost to the votes, but they can't get the Republicans on board to go ahead and pass legislation for retirement and SSDI, because then that will give too many, good old boy or pat on the head votes to the Democrats for getting it through. So what we're looking at here is essentially the only possibility of a $3.5 trillion potential infusion, even though Biden wants it lessened in the amount spent. What we're looking at is basically the only option for these benefits really being increased, being through Pelosi wanting to have the great moment before her retirement. I want to point out something. Pelosi is becoming, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, is becoming more and more like a caged animal at the end of her life. At least when you think about it in the sense of the government, right? With her role, her job, etc. She has to keep enough favors throughout people that are in control of things to make sure that when she leaves office, there's no potential problems. But she's also going to use as many as she can of those favors that she's collected over the years to make her final moment, whatever you want to call it, like, the big finale, the big fireworks display, etc. So we have to realize that we're not dealing with, Godzilla here. We're dealing with the ultimate mega titanium Godzilla of Speaker of the House's. That's going to be the final big moment where she just, does her big thing. It's her gift to essentially the American people, right? Or she could go the other way and make it mostly about immigrants and yada yada. But the point is this. I think that, and I didn't even put it in my top 15 reasons for why we're going to see a fourth stimulus or a boost for SSI benefits through the SSI Restoration Act. I think that we're all discounting the reality of how much this individual wants to leave a perfected name upon her retirement. Or she could just be trying to get out without anything bad happening to her. You never know. You know what I mean? If I was in office that long, there'd be skeletons. There would be problems. It's just the way of how it works. Politicians trade favors. That's what they do. All right, so let's take a look at the math real quick. And the reason I say this is that a lot of us are sitting back going like, this will never happen. It'll never happen. Think of it this way. When's the last time that you saw Pelosi say there's potential for retirement, right? When was the last time you saw the Democrats have complete control? House, Senate, President. We're not living in what the norm is time. We're living in the twilight zone right now. Anyway, let's get right to the math. All right, 794 2021 max for SSI benefits, but we can't use that figure. We got to use a different figure, which is essentially the average figure. So $586 per month is what the average person gets in 2021 for SSI. All right, so if we know that $586, I should probably bring up an Excel sheet. Let me do that. Let me do it the right way as opposed to just wiggling through this on my phone. Real quick, I'm going to bring up Excel, do this the right way. That way we can refer back to the figures as I'm doing it. Okay, so here we go. So essentially, let's say, all right, so equals 586 multiply little star by 8 million, right? Boom. Okay, so that comes out to, God, my eyesight is terrible. All right, that comes out to, all right, there's a million there. Okay, so $4.688 billion. Okay, that's what that comes out to essentially per month. That's how much they pay out per month. So if we multiply that equals 12 multiplied by that. Sorry, I can't do these massive numbers in my head. It's only because I work all day and I'm very tired. But if you want to play a chess game with me ever, let me know. That over the entire expanse of a year comes out to 56 billion 256 million. All right, so for giggles and snuggles, let's just say 47 billion for a month and 56 billion for the year. That's what SSI costs on average, with the provision of individuals getting $586 per month. Now, I know a lot of you guys are sitting out there going, well, that doesn't make sense because some people make $794. But you have to remember, that's the average number. That means there's many, many people below that and many, many people above that. But if you squish them all together, the average is essentially $586 per month. So that's the number we have to use when calculating how much it really costs essentially for SSI to pay out. Now, there's administrative fees on top of that. So let's just, say, well, we might be able to look this up. Hold on, let me see if we can look this up. How much does, and remember, these are just general figures, SSI cost to administer per year. Let's see if we can just find a number here. Budget estimates and related information. Let me see real quick. Hold on. Percentage total expenditures, administrative expenses in millions. I mean, it's percentage total expenditures. All right, so if we scroll down to the current, all right, we can only get 2020 data. So it looks like, crap. I see retirement here. I see DI. DI is 2.555 billion. Is that right? No, this is in millions. Yeah. Oh, no, 2,555. Yeah, so it'd be 2.555 billion. All right, so in order to administer this program, what we've got to do is we're taking the SSDI program, which has similarly around 8, it's just a little over 8 million people taking. So it's a little bit more than SSI. But the point of this thing is, what we're going to do is, so now we know in order to administer that one, and even though that one's harder to administer, although it might not be because of the whole in-kind support maintenance rule that takes a lot of time for the SSA to work out, and they have to hire more employees for that. Although the whole quarters of coverage analysis thing takes people for that. Let's just take the DI figure, the disability insurance figure. So it takes $2.5 billion. So now, and that's per year. So now what we're looking at is, let me just add this number in. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is giant numbers. Oh wait, I got to take out the, okay, it already did that. Okay, so now per year, the SSI program, I'm sure there's little things here and there that we're not counting, blah, 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 but we're going to do the equals, and we're going to add 56 billion plus, okay, our 2.555 billion. That comes out to 58,811 million. So what do we know? So it takes around, let's just say round it up because, we know how the government is. Let's just say it takes $59 billion per year to go ahead and administer the Social Security Administration Supplemental Security Income Program. Okay? Let's just add a lot more money on top of that because that's how the government works. Here we go. All right, so now we're at 59 billion. Now remember, the country makes $22 trillion a year. So if you took $22 trillion, I'm not even sure how I'm going to write this out with all those zeros. It won't even fit. All right, so let's do this. So we got thousands, millions, billions. Hey guys, my name is Attorney Walter Knott with Disability Resolution PA. I want to do some additional math, playing around with the figures specifically for SSI, the Restoration Act, and figuring out based on what the federal poverty levels are. And another thing real quick, guys, unfortunately, before we even continue with this video, there is a group that continues to copy my information and respond to people. And they look like basically, hold on, let me see if I can bring this up. I can't bring it up all on its own, but you're going to be seeing a group making responses as if it looks like me. It's not me. They just copied my picture and then they put some font in there to look like, essentially the title of mine, disability benefits, etc. They're not me. So if you see somebody trying to have you sign up for something, or you see somebody trying to have you do some sort of class or buy-in or whatever, that's not me. All right, let's get right to the video. Okay, so let's look at some options here. 100% poverty rate is essentially at 12,880. Actually, no, let's not start there. Let's start with some even more basic math for SSI, right? To understand this whole 1073 Supplemental Security Income Restoration Act. The average person gets $586, right, per year on SSI. So if we take $586 and we multiply that by 12, what we end up with is $7,032. So that's what the average person on SSI gets, $7,032 per year, which is unfathomable. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Now, let's say that somebody got the full SSI amount. So we're going to do equals 794 times 12. That would give us $9,528. So less than 10K a year for SSI, which still makes no mathematical sense as to how they're supposed to afford anything. Like, you couldn't even really live a Walmart lifestyle with that. It would be close. It would be very close. Then if we look at the 100% poverty level, it's $12,880. If we look at 115% poverty level, it's $14,812. That to me seems a little bit more realistic for a bottom of the barrel, scraping by way of life in America. That to me sounds a little bit more realistic than $7,000, $9,500, or $12,800. I think we realistically can agree that the bottom of the barrel should be $14,800 or just $15,000 per year. That to me makes more sense. It just does. I mean, if you had $1,000 a month, that gets you to 12 grand. You need a little bit more than that per month, than $1,000. That's what that would get you, right? A little bit more than $1,000 per month gets you to $14,812. All right, let's continue. 133%, $17,130 per year. Let's see, 138%, $17,774 per year. 150%, $19,320 per year. Now, I realistically think a more fair amount, like if this nation knew how to handle its finances, I think that would be a more appropriate amount. Like 20 grand a year to somebody on SSI makes more sense to me than 7,032. I think if America handled its finances, like investing in its own companies, like if America invested in its own successful companies more often than constantly making green companies that either go out of business or get sold to China, we would essentially have all of our investment money and continue to grow it. And we would have so much money, so many, trillions, that we wouldn't constantly be running out of money. So kind of the bottom line is I think 20,000 is a more realistic approach to living in America nowadays, with the person still having enough to have a car, have insurance for the car. That's not like the bare minimum, you get hit, you die insurance, unless, of course, you have the insurance of Medicaid. But, that's not going to get you the best surgeons. We all know that. So, all right. So I think just above 150% is where America should be if it could handle its own, what you can call whatever you want to call it, its own finances more appropriately. Like if we had the IRS audit the politicians in the sense of how they're distributing and utilizing funds and not constantly putting us in a situation where we have to raise the debt ceiling, I think the IRS would be very unhappy. They'd be spanking the politicians left and right for coming out with the categorical expenditures that they do. Okay, 200%, $25,760. I would like to see that as the baseline for SSDI benefits. That's the ones where you pay into it. Or like DAC benefits. You get to tap into your parents' benefits. I think 25 should be the baseline, realistically, for essentially SSDI people. I think retirement people should be above that. Maybe like 250% should be like the baseline there. Look, if you work your entire life, you shouldn't have to live a life of being basically a poverty slave. Does that make any sense? Like, this country has not treated its farm animals well. I mean, they milked us our entire life, and then they put us out into the pasture where there's no grass. 300%, $38,640. 400%, $51,520. So, you know, and that's the other problem with these numbers. Like when they say like, oh, 400% of the poverty level, you know, above the poverty. Wow, that's amazing. And the problem with that is that 400% makes it sound like somebody's like mega money, you know, earnings. That to me is shameful for Americans that are working to have to be like trying to achieve that. You know, if it used to be they were teaching us like, go get educated, you'll get a job, you'll make money, you'll be able to support your family. Lies, lies, and lies. Let me tell you why. How many educated people are able to really support their lifestyle for a family of 4? They're one person, there's 3 other people, a family of 4. Hardly any. Hardly any. It's just a big lie. It's like, you know, looking at the Auschwitz camp, and you look up at the sign at the top of it in World War II, and the Jews are reading this as they go in, and it's just a big lie. That's what it's become. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Oh, you get educated, and then you can afford a family and a house. No, you can't. You can barely afford your student loans. I'm at 300, and they're up now because, you know, the whole COVID thing. It's probably up to 350,000. Was at 332,000, down from 500,000. It's a lie. It's all a big lie. It's Nazi tactics at this point that the American government used through the politicians to enslave people to have to work their entire life to create the most benefit to the American government. And think about this. Who do I mostly have to pay with my student loans? It's not mostly private companies. Yeah, there's some of that because I'm older. It's mostly to the American government. You know why they're not getting rid of student loans? Because they are a cash cow system. They're like, oh, you know, the Latino kids and the black kids and the brown kids, the Asian kids, you know, maybe some white females. You know, we need to step in to support essentially giving, you know, fair loans to everybody to go to school. That was cute. That's like your classic BS approach to getting your foot in the door to go ahead and mass charge everybody. What do we have now? Student loans have taken over. People can't afford homes. They live, you know, America's unique. The way America handles a lot of its, you know, America makes people pay $1,500 in rent and then gives them the middle finger when they want to apply to go ahead and buy a home that's only $750 a month in mortgage. You know, anybody upset about that? I am. I'm not happy. I'm not cool with it. You know, the real problem, guys, is these figures could be met. It's just all these people sitting in office 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. God, they blame, you know, I love it. I sit back and I watch them and I think to myself, if I sat in a courtroom and I blamed, right, and I blamed prior attorneys and I blamed, you know, things that should, could have, would have been fixed, the judge would be all over me. The judge would be beating me into the ground because I am in charge of getting it all together on my client's side. But that's not how the politicians work. No, that's not how they work. The way they work is raises, pet programs, massive funding to things that have nothing to do with the American people. It's sad, too, because at the end of the day, these numbers, like, there's no reason why America couldn't have a system of people on us. And I know the usual argument. The usual argument, don't get me wrong, capitalism, we need it. We need it. We just don't need monopolistic capitalism, which is what we have now. That's like the Walmart capitalism, the Amazon capitalism, the Home Depot capitalism. We don't need that capitalism. We need medium-sized companies competing. And then we need the U.S. massively tariffing, you know, taxing other countries trying to send their products here, other mega companies trying to send their products here. That way our medium and small companies can compete against mega companies. So the problem is the TV wants us to believe that the Republicans and the Democrats are essentially right, depending on which side you're on. But they're all wrong. they all blamed a guy who had never really been in office for everybody's problems, which if you've got one cell in your brain, you would know that that guy, A, didn't have nearly as much power as we all thought he did when he became president, B, didn't have all the people supporting him with favors like all these other lifetime politicians, and C, every day it was a new thing. The Russia hoax, which we now know ties directly to Clinton, the Biden computer stuff, which we now know is factual. I remember talking with my buddy, super Democrat, not liberal, super Democrat, like way left. And he's like, I would never trust any of that stuff about Biden. Biden's son would never do that, right? With the laptop and the pictures and the stuff like that. And I said, well, yeah, but I pulled him down from the web. I went into the questionable web and pulled him down. I was like, man, he's and I'm like, look, it could not be, but hey, you would think that we would have had validity in the news within a day, like they always did to Trump. Just to be fair, they would have either put him on a cross or had him kneeling before a cross. That's how the media should have handled it. They're either gonna, give us the truth or they're not. What they did was they waited months. I mean, what are we, 8 months? 8 months down the line, post laptop situation. They said, oh, it's validated. Do you guys ever get tired of being lied to? And here's the thing. I don't know if you guys realize this, but when it comes to SSI, SSI people are slaves. They are. They're slaves financially. They're slaves in geographic restrictions because they can't live anywhere. They're not going to be living on Martha's Vineyard. They have to be living in specific spots where it's the ultra cheap, or they're quasi living illegally, but people just let it slide, right? Okay, because right there, 7,032. So a year. So the thing is this: when you put in the Democrats or the Republicans, you are then asking the Democratic Party, asking the Republican Party for permission to use your rights as a human being. And all the parties keep doing, the Republicans and the Democrats, is restricting your rights further because it's a two-party system. And whenever you vote somebody in, you're not saying, hey, this president's going to lead me to greatness. What you are really saying is, I accept this as my landlord, as my feudal lord, as a party who will dictate to me how I will live my life. That's what it is. The Republicans are going to tell you how to live your life. The Democrats are going to tell you how to live your life. Now, the Republicans usually want less of that. They want less government. They want less interference. They don't want to have to be so much in your business. The Democrats are all about Big Brother. Every little aspect of you, they want to know, they want to watch, they want to have all that stuff. The Democrats have changed. I have very liberal thoughts. Like, I don't think any American should be charged to go into a national park, a national forest, a national anything. They just shouldn't. Why would they? Like, they exist for us. Right? You already tax us for their existence. Why would you charge us a fee to go into them? Oh, we don't charge the students. Well, aren't we all students of American history? Of America's beauty? The forests? The trees? The coral reefs? Aren't we? So my point to you... Alright, I'm sorry. I got way off with the math. Let's go back to the math. We did the math. $586 times 12, right? That equals $732. The most somebody can get right now is $794 per month. Multiply that 12. That's $9,528 per year. Shit. Realistically, I want to go ahead and take a moment. Let's say the average person essentially would get 115% of the poverty level for SSI. I think that that's more responsible of America to go ahead and support the impoverished, disabled people. Okay. Let's just make it an easy number because the numbers can always be difficult. All right, let's say per year they're making $15,000 per year. Right now the math supports $14,812, but let's just say $15,000, right? So now we're going to multiply basically that by 8 million. So we're going to do equal $8 million, or 8 million people. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I just want to make sure I've got my zeros lined up. Okay, and then we're going to multiply that by this number right here. So what that equals, oh God, it does more of this, like, you know, e to the 11th stuff. So what that equates to is, I'm guessing probably $120 billion. Although I have no idea, because it won't give me the actual number. I'd have to count all the zeros. So let's see, there's 11 zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that gives me 9, and then, sorry guys, it's super late. Let me just figure this out real quick. Before we had around 59. This is essentially adding a third. Yeah, so that makes sense. So like, okay, so 120-ish billion dollars per year. No, wait, we got to add the administrative stuff, like how much it costs for them to administer it. So if we've got 100, so equals 120 billion, right? So we take that, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And now we add on top of that the cost to do it, 2 billion. We get 122.555 billion. So we're paying right now for SSI around, let's see, what was that figure we had before? Hold on, this is that plus that. So right now we're paying per year around 58,811,000,000. And if we get it at 115% of the poverty level, which would equate to around, and we did it actually by that, it's probably like 116, 170%, but we did it at $15,000 per year. So I don't know if you, here, I'll do the quick math on this. So if we take $15,000 and we divide it by 12 to give you your figure, that's $1,250 per month. $1,250 per month to me sounds more reasonable as, like, you know, something that somebody might be able to survive on. It's not much. But remember, here's the thing too, a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, but if you do that, they're never going to work. And then my response to that is, they're not already working because they're disabled. And we put them through a 5-step sequential evaluation process to figure out if they could work a full-time job. So the point here is this. It's crazy. It would only take around 122.5 billion. And we make 22 trillion a year. So the point here is that it wouldn't cost that much. All right, and let's double that, although it would be more than that. Let's say it's 244 or 45 to add SSDI on top of that. I mean, it's going to be more than that. Let's just say 250 billion to add SSDI on top of that, right? At its current rate of SSDI, whatever. I mean, we can always do SSDI videos where we specifically go into just generalized numbers. I mean, what we're doing here is rough wood cutting. We're not doing, you know, fine wood manipulation with a Dremel tool. We're just doing some rough wood cutting with the numbers. But 122 billion is nothing. It's nothing to essentially raise the impoverished to 116, 117% of the poverty rate, where they could get $1,250 per month. No in-kind support maintenance rule, none of that crap. It's just like that. Somebody could actually live on that. Somebody could have car insurance, a car. Somebody could go visit somebody for maybe one holiday. Like if they go on one thing, you know? I mean, they wouldn't be going on cruises, but, you know, they could go visit somebody for a holiday. I don't know, you know, you got to wonder at some point too, like what is the ethical consequence? What is the moral consequence of allowing your impoverished disabled people to live in financial slavery? Like, is there a negative aspect to that? You know, like, you know, think about it. We allow all these chickens to be bred, and they even had legislation that they were trying to pass where they could just genetically create these chickens to have no legs or wings. Or no, they could have no legs, but they could have wings. and they would just be these little meatballs that they could go ahead and mass process into chicken nuggets. That's kind of what I think of this as. Like, this financial amount for SSI is almost like a genetic cursing. It's essentially taking away your legs, your ability to stand tall, your ability to transport yourself someplace, to be happy, to experience life. It's kind of like when, McDonald's was looking at legislation to create little chiclets that had no legs. And I have to look that up. It's been a while since I looked that up, but that was, from what I was reading, a real potential caseload scenario where they were looking at, okay, how do we go ahead and present this as legislation? What kind of court battles will we be looking at, etc. It was shot down because it was just totally inhumane to the animal world, even though obviously chickens are outside of an American's ethical boundaries when it comes to mass eating them. Like, we don't eat dogs here, but we're totally cool with chickens. So kind of the bottom line here is that I think what you guys need to do is start to get together, create unions, create groups, create nonprofits supporting each other, and get people voting all along the party line of SSI increases. Politicians are afraid of 8 million votes going one way or the other. They are. 8 million votes would have decided pretty much most of the elections that have happened ever in America. I can't think of many elections where that wouldn't have made. I mean, there's a few presidential elections in my time that wouldn't have been decided by that, but most presidential elections would have been decided by 8 million votes. So I guess what I'm saying here is the numbers support SSI people getting more. Here's another thing that'll happen if SSI people were to get 116, 117% above the poverty line, that $12.50 per month. Here's what would happen. SSI people would inherently be helping their own community, would inherently be helping their own family members, would inherently be helping, basically being a part of the structured family existence to pay for things, etc. And their life would change in a more positive direction. A lot of their family members would not look upon them as like the great thing that they have to carry on their back from year to year, which we never really hear about much when it comes to SSI. People talk about it, the way they phrase it is, I'm just tired of being useless. And that's the phrase they always, useless. It's the same phrasing over and over. And what they mean by useless is they're tired of not having the potential to be helpful to other people that matter to them. And that includes themselves. And look, if it were me, I would... Look, a lot of people are like, we need to have UBI. Before we have UBI, we need to recognize that our disabled individuals need to have more funds. Well, we should have UBI, and then we could, add that onto. It'll never happen that way. It's going to be a situation where we need to first recognize the disabled people, their inabilities, and then start to promote the idea of what do we give somebody that gives them the basics to survive while still promoting the identity of going out and doing a job. As somebody who comes from waking up at 5:30 a.m. to go and feed and water the horses, and at some point we got automatic waterers and automatic feeders, but we couldn't always use the automatic feeders because they were just in the barn. Sometimes they'd be out in the paddocks. But as somebody who comes from that lineage of having to wake up at 5:30 a.m., of having to de-weed the fields, of having to de-rock the fields. When we had rock parties, that's where I would go out with my lacrosse stick, and my dad would have a tractor with a little, trailer on the back, and I would grab the stones out of the fields and throw them into the back of the tractor trailer. That would be a rock party. So as somebody who comes from that, I think it's really incredibly important that we understand, and I'm just removing more spam right now. They keep spamming my channel with my own name, with my own picture. But so if you see a comment, by the way, where it looks like me, it's probably not me, unfortunately. I'm that known now, even though I'm not really that known. Like most people don't care about channels that have 33,000, subscribers, but I hope you do. And if you ever do want to really help me out, the way you can help me out is by leaving me 5-star reviews. In the bio area, you just scroll down about like 1/3, 2/3 down the way. There's all those links of how to leave 5-star reviews on like Google, Avo, etc. I hope you guys realize that. Okay, here's another thing. Remember when I started with this YouTube channel and everybody was like, and I used the question, what are your top 5 most severe disabling conditions? And people's minds were blown. Now everybody's like, oh, that's a standard question. That's not a standard question. It's not. Nobody uses that in the industry. Judges don't use that in the industry. Attorneys don't use that in the industry. That's just me. I use that in the industry. I'm it. I'm the only guy. But now other attorneys are using it, and other non-legal reps are using it because they watch my channel, which is great. The whole point of the channel was to be an education platform as a tutorial. That's the whole point of the thing, is to like move disability benefits forward, educate people on how to get disability benefits. It was mind-altering at the time when I would ask people that. Their brain would explode. They'd be like, I don't know what my impairments are. 5 of them? What? You know. And what if I said to you, you tell me what you think your percentage above poverty rate should be? You'd sit there and be like, well, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Well, that's what this video is about. It's like sitting there and like starting to chip away at the stone of what it's going to look like when it's polished. We got this chunk of marble. We want it to look like a Michelangelo statue. We want it to be amazing. The veins in the hands, right? Well, wow. We're chipping away. We're trying to figure out, well, what is a reasonable starting point? What do we make it in today's money world? What it should look like? I think 115%, that's baseline. I think that's more reasonable. I don't think 100% at 1073 is reasonable. I think $1,250 is reasonable. I think that gets you rent. I think it gets you basics. I think that gets you one trip a year to go see something. National park, family, friends. You know, some places, you live in Hawaii, you live in California, you live in New York, it ain't going to happen. But you can always move to a different state where it's cheaper. Not that I'm saying you should have to. I mean, that's a whole nother, you know. But my point here is this, guys. And I know I've made this video way too long, and I'm really sorry about that. I hope my ideas resonate with you. If they don't, you can always, you know, if you're going to hate me, don't hate me because of the political thing. Like, I tell you guys this stuff because I want you to be open to hating both parties. That's terrible. I want you to be open to hating all of the parties within the two-party zone. I want you to park away from the two-party zone and think, you know, as outside-of-the-box type of individual. The point is this. If I've done anything, it's to make you question what they're feeding you on a daily basis. To no longer expect them to dictate to you how you can live your life. There was a time, okay, if you go do one thing with this video, if you learn nothing, totally cool, I'm cool with that. But if you go do one thing, could you do one thing for me? Could you go look up people from the 1800s and early 1900s, like 1900? Can you go look up specifically people talking about work and life from the 1800s and the early 1900s, you know, like 1900 era, and listen to what they say about their jobs, their life, what it was like to have fun, what it was like to do stuff. The government wasn't a part of their life in the way that it is now. It was a totally different existence. There's nobody alive now that comes from, you know, World War I era, you know, life choices. You've got some World War IIers, right? But World War I, everybody's passed away. I want you to go way before World War I. I want you to go all the way to like mid 1800s, latter, you know, or I saw this video where it was a farmer talking from, I don't know, it was like 1856, 1860, whatever. The point is, and I know I'm probably saying that wrong with the 1800s meaning one thing versus, but the point is, go look at the 1850, 1860, 1840, 1870, 1880 period, and listen to them talk. They don't talk about the government and what they're gonna, how the government's gonna mold them as a human being, as an American. The government had no power like that. The government wasn't able to, like, the government did horrible things to the American Indians. Sure. The government controlled them like the government's trying to control us now. The government controlled Asian Pacific Americans, right? During the World War II situation, you've got to move into this camp during World War II. That's how they're treating us now as Americans. They're putting us in camps, and then they're letting us ideologically choose. You're either a Democrat or you're a Republican. And all we do is we lose because we just fight each other on that. So if you're going to hate me, don't hate me because of where I stand politically, because I don't stand on either of those pillars. I'm ashamed of both of them at this point. I probably at some point should go change my political affiliation to, I don't know, the hate both parties party, or whatever we'd call it. The thinking about things realistically party. But my point to you guys is this. Remember when pot was evil? Oh, it was so evil. It was terrible. A kid will do horrible things to himself if he's a pothead, right? He may not live to the full, masterful skill of his life if he's a pothead, unless he's in the media industry, then it would probably go further, But I certainly saw a lot of that when I was in music school. But the point of this is, guys, I think we all realize now that marijuana is not the devil. How many generations did it take? And I'm not a user. So, but anyways, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope this opened your mind up a little bit. But, the point of this video, my apologies. Figure out what you believe SSI should be at in the sense of the poverty percentage tools, right? Should it be 115%? Should it be 100%? Should it be 130%? But be realistic about it. Sit down and say, okay, what's the average cost of rent? What's the average cost of food? What's the average cost of utilities? What's the average cost of driving? What's the average cost of insurance for the car? What's the average cost of basic medical upkeep, change of this, that way? Figure it out. It's me saying to people, that are on SSI or want to get on SSI, hey, it could be this. Yeah, I go by what I've seen. But you're living it. That's like somebody being a drug counselor that's never used narcotics before, sitting there telling a room full of, users and abusers how to live their life better. Blah, 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 blah. That's why I don't think I have the card here, but that's why I brought that person on the show the other night. Heavy-duty narcotic user, utilized the firm, got basically benefits, and now has a church built on, a ministry built on helping the homeless and getting them away from drugs. Of course we need people like that. They have experience. I heard somebody, oh, that's a drug user. Well, they have experience. They're the most experienced person in that field. It's not the person who has a degree at the doctorate level in drug abuse. That person has no clue. They're living off of hypotheticals and what people have told them. Anyways, guys, I hope you just keep an open mind with the ideas I have. I know not all of them are popular. I know I see in some of the comments where some of you guys, like if we did like a mean tweets episode where I like read the mean tweets, even though I don't have a Twitter account, where you guys send me some of the stuff, like it would be hilarious. Like I should probably do that at some point because I would get a kick out of it. But and I get at this point I get a death threat every week, whether it's via email or somebody somehow texts the law firm and then back office either hides it or sends it to me or whatever. But my point to you is I hope these ideas resonate with you and start having you prepare your worship to figuring out what benefits should you get, what is the math behind it that supports it, and how are you going to move that worship in front of the politicians so that they know you mean business with passing a law that supports the disabled who can't work a full-time job. That's SSI. Oh, it's a welfare program. It's not a welfare program. It's not. If it were a welfare program as we design it and define it in the United States, you wouldn't have the severity requirements and the poverty requirements. You would just have poverty requirements. But instead, this also requires these severity disability requirements, which are very, very strict. Anyways, I'll catch you a little bit later. Please remember, I go live every Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. Oh, that's another thing. Guys, don't call me during the week. A lot of you guys like to call me during the 9 to 5 hours, and you're like, hey, man, I really dig your show. I'm already receiving disability benefits. Let me tell you about this unique situation that my other attorney couldn't handle or fix or whatever. And then you throw that on me. And I tell all of you guys now, because I don't have time during the 9 to 5. When I'm working at the law firm, I'm just working for the clients that I have or that I'm going to be working with or that I'm signing up or whatever. Thursday, I donate 2 hours, 8 to 10 p.m. I've never shown up for anything on time except my hearings. So 8:15, 8:20. Bottom line is, Thursday, I donate 2 hours. And that's when you call in with questions if you're already receiving benefits or you want to run hearing questions or whatever. Okay, that's when you do it. Otherwise, literally, we get too many phone calls a day from people that I call up and go, hey, look, I got to cut you off. I don't mean it, but you got to call me on Thursday because this is outside of the purview of what the law firm does during the 9 to 5 throughout the week. All right, guys. My name is Attorney Walter Knott. Like, subscribe, leave 5-star reviews, and I'll catch you later. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.